Hey everyone, it's Will, GamerDad, with another video for you. So a couple of you have asked for my recommendations with the upcoming Star Dream, and for those who have not followed along, the Star Dream should be available about 2.5 days from now when the new main story Part 3 Volume 2 update drops, at least for me, on Monday evening here in North America. Now, if you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. And so in today's video, we'll discuss my thoughts, as in GamerDad's thoughts and considerations about who you should pick in the upcoming Star Dream. Now, keep in mind that the Star Dream does have a cutoff. It only does go up to version 3.2.100, the last kind of epilogue in the Wanderer in the Vortex. That last unit available should be AS Melody. Now, I realized that 3.2.100 also was the same version when Alter Du Nerith came out. However, I'm not sure that he is available since he came out the update after that last epilogue. So bear that in mind when the update drops, that you may not be able to select anything after AS Melody, and certainly not Valette, which is our new unit coming in to the main story Part 3. And so this is essentially a slightly upgraded version of the Star Dream we had a few months ago when Cesta came out. What has changed? Both in the game, in future considerations, and in kind of our catch-up as well. And so hopefully this video does touch upon that to some extent. Again, if you have any questions, definitely leave them in the comments below. I will also put in the video description below the link to my last Star Dream video, so you can take a look and see what my selections and discussions were at that time. So criteria is going to be the same as before, because after all, I am recommending you to spend real hard-earned money, even if you use the starter pack to buy your discounted 1,000 stones. And for those who are new to the game, you may not know this, but you actually can buy the premium starter set, which for us in Canada is only $8.49. I think in the US it's even cheaper than that. And obviously, if you're in a different country, that will be a different price. With that, you do get 1,000 paid stones that can be used on any paid banner, including the Star Dream encounter, which is only paid stones. Free stones does not count. And if you compare that to the normal price, it is almost 30 bucks, at least in Canada, and obviously even more expensive in other countries. And so because of that, I am trying to be quite considerate in recommending units. I want to recommend units that can last at least 6 to 12 months, if not longer. Now, previous to this video, the recommendations or units that I would recommend could last anywhere from 12 to 18 months if things kind of go our way, and depending on the speed of releases from WFS. But unfortunately, with the change in the power creep levels, things have gotten a lot more crazy. We've also had Fast and Furious updates as we caught up to Japan, and so the units haven't lasted nearly as long as before. So we'll look over some of my last few picks and see if anything has changed or if I've kind of made a mistake in recommending them to you. Also, if you're like me, you'll also realize that a lot of the older units, even like my waifu Suzette here as True Manifest, she's good, but she's not great anymore. She wouldn't be like considered an absolute top tier recommendation in a unit. Some of the older units, like, before when I, for example, would recommend someone like AS Yipha or like some zone setters, they were premier and one of its only kind and irreplaceable for a number of months or up to a year. But I mean, you see units replacing each other within months, so I'll touch on that a little bit more throughout the videos. Also, just as a reminder, we recommend units that can fit multiple roles. Now, the current meta is that any new unit, basically, if they can't do 3 or more roles, we essentially say they're not worth summoning, or you can save your stones for future banners. So, for example, optimal units would have both offensive DPS capabilities. They would have significant defensive capabilities, both with buffs and debuffs. So we're talking about things like dual or triple debuffs of 35% down or higher. Really, we're looking for anywhere from 30 to 60% power int debuffs and so on and so forth.
In terms of offensive debuff, we are looking for things like up to 100% type res down, physical res down, things like that. We also want units that can give mental focus, physical mental focus, and magic crit is a new one that's out there. I don't think any of the units we currently can select can do that, but we're looking for things like that. And also, they can do things like set zones and or have special abilities. Like if you think about some of the more powerful units in the past, I'll just choose one of the well-known ones, as in Epry. She is a zone setter. She has some DPS capabilities. She has tons of special abilities. She has triple debuff that can get up to 50%. She has, I don't know. She has tons of stuff, not including all her special abilities like Blood Contract, which also gives things like Risk, Lunatic, Risk Taker, Lunatic, and so on and so forth. So these are the kind of criteria that we are looking for in recommending high-level units for some of our top picks. So first of all, don't get upset if I don't pick your waifu or husbando. You know that if I don't pick your unit, right? That means I hate your roster, I hate your team, and most importantly, I hate you. No, just kidding, guys. Like, seriously, don't take it seriously. If I don't select your husbando or waifu or anything like that, it doesn't mean I hate them or anything. It's just that in my criteria, I'm really trying to recommend units that are hopefully useful at for everyone out there. And speaking of which, we are recommending units that are useful in all areas of the game, specifically bosses and super bosses. Again, just like the previous video, farming is easy. One newer unit can probably one-shot everything out there. And if you have a newer unit, most of them have low MP or 0 MP or increased damage in the first move. So you can do that for free for the most part. And if not, you summon a couple of different units from the last 6 months, and you probably can get it done even if you're relatively new to the game. It actually has gotten to the point where a lot of newer players don't even know what they're doing. They just press a button and everything's dead in front of them, even some of the early main story and super bosses at the time. Now, in terms of other things to consider, we give special consideration to units that allow for low turn clears, high DPS modifiers, or broken and scam abilities. And again, we know all about that, but I'll cover those throughout the video. Finally, I don't take into account any personal considerations. So if you are summoning based on waifu or husbando units, fan favorites, or missing holes in your roster just to finish up your completion because you're only missing 2 or 3 units out there, these are not summoning or pulling for the meta, and so, that won't be considered here. Also, one thing I recommend for sure, don't use your SDE on units you'll never use due to personal reasons, aka they're too cheap, or you don't like them, or blah, 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 blah. At least use the unit sometimes. Also, don't use your SDE on a unit that you can side grade unless you really can't wait. Again, we are, when I recommend Star Dreams, even though I'm a free-to-play player and don't use Star Dreams, I try to keep this in mind that I'm recommending from a free-to-play standpoint. Therefore, even if you're a low spender and you do the occasional Star Dream, I don't want you to waste your money on units you can eventually get from the side grade because, as you already know, you can side grade every unit, hopefully within 3 to 6 months if you have some lucky RNG, get the right chance tree season opuses. And yes, occasionally it takes longer than that, but I mean, as myself grinding every day and running keys isn't really difficult at this point in the game for me at least. I've only had a handful of times where I haven't gotten the unit within 3 to 6 months, and I think one of the longer ones was, for example, Alter Hismina and AS Nokoko, both of which happened this year because they were released in Christmas time, and I think it took almost up to May or 5 months to get them all. So that is a rare situation. However, in general, don't bother spending unless you really can't wait. SDEs really are meant to unlock access to units you don't have because you can side grade to all the other versions later on. And one last thing as a reminder, make sure you use all your free pulls in the current campaigns. Remember, we get up to 10 5-stars, including 10 Daily Whispers, all the other 5-stars as you play through the main story. I think there's a couple weapon ones, a couple era ones, and so on and so forth. Get all those, use all your free pulls on things like Villette and other current banners before using your SDE, and then decide from then. Also, remember that you don't use the SDE right away. Try to pull on the Star Dream Encounter banner on the last week that's available.
That way, you can then wait an additional 30 days from using the Star Dream encounter to use your Star Dreams piece to select the exact 5-star you want. And that way, you don't run into a situation where, oh, I pulled that unit, darn it, I should not have used my Star Dream on that unit because I already pulled it. So you don't want to waste these Star Dreams. As much as we've had a few more this year, that's probably because we've sped up in our schedule. And so in future, especially with Japan, they don't get that many, okay? So don't be spoiled with Global having so many. I think in the future, we're only expecting anywhere from 2 to 4, not like 5 or 6 this year. All right, so you know we're going to go with number 1, and number 1, unfortunately, isn't Suzette. I already said that Suzette is great in my mind, and she's number 1 in my heart. She knows this. However, she isn't number 1 in the meta. We are going to go back to my previous number 1 pick, which is Yipha. Okay, so if you haven't heard me talk about Yipha and gush over Yipha, I mean, not that she's not hot or anything, okay? But just look at her abilities. Freaking broken everywhere she goes. She's got the zone setting move that can reapply Lunatic Risk Taker. Lunatic Risk Taker allows everyone to do extra damage at the cost of taking 20% self damage. However, for units that rely on Lunatic to do more damage, guess what? It's a free Lunatic and it's continuous as long as they haven't died. Blood Contract also allows you to tank hits, and when the unit tanks the hit, that is the equivalent of cover, essentially turning everyone into a AS Sora or Alter Daenerys or something along those lines, where they just take it, they take all the damage, including all AoEs, and then they will revive from the dead. So the only thing is that some bosses do specific single target random, and if it's random, then Yipha is vulnerable. But if it's not random, and especially AoEs, your minions, aka the ones she's bit and infested with her vampirism, will tank the hit for your entire team, and you've seen that in action, and it's broken as heck. And not to mention, if you use it again while in Shade Zone, it'll change everyone to Shade, so she can do a Kaleido for Shade magic or damage for everyone, which is great if you're fighting an enemy weak or vulnerable to Shade. Alright, also when we were talking about units that can do things, remember when I talk about multiple units? She's a zone setter. She gives you Blood Contract. She gives you triple debuffs, 35, 35, 35 minimum, up to 50, 50, 50 if you've had 3 Blood Contracts consumed, which is not very hard. We can also talk about her other boosts, which is Power, Int, and Speed, so offensive buff now, and Cyclone Wind immunity, aka kickback immunity 1 time, and it can be up to 2 times and double the stacks of 100, 100, 100. So the most powerful boosts in the game are capped boosts, and that is Power, Speed, and up to 100%. And finally, her Ecophilia has a decent DPS mod when needed. Not much else to say, except she does not have a buddy, aka sidekick. Other than that, absolutely nothing wrong with her. Clear number 1, has been number 1 for a number of months, and so on and so forth. Okay, any questions? If not, Gamer Dad will lecture on. So, how about 2-3 and 4-5? Unfortunately, no change. We're going to go with 2-3 or 4-5, and it depends on how you want to play the game. And if you're me and you know how I like to play the game, I like to play the game by abusing sidekicks and buddies. We always pull for the buddy, not the unit. Although in this case, the units themselves are freaking ridiculous as well. So let's talk about what I would pull if you're going to talk about 2-3 or 4-5. If you're wondering which one I would pick over each other as 2-3, Minoka probably would be picked over Yakumo, and not because Yakumo's bad. I would argue that Yakumo's DPS and raw abilities exceed Minoka's. However, Minoka comes with something else. And that something else is Tetra, and Tetra is cheap and unfair, and really no substitution for that in any team. There's very few reasons you don't have Tetra either in the front line as a sidekick or in the back line having the aura. Remember that you can equip 2 sidekicks. One front line will be doing the move and has an active aura, and the one in the back does nothing, however still has an active aura and can be switched to the front at any time at the beginning of your turn with no penalty. So there is a lot of versatility with powerful sidekicks.
and Tetra is essentially the most powerful of them. Its attack, which is the magic attack times 3 XL, can help wear down multi-hit barriers. Mind you, also heals everybody and restores statuses. At 8 charges, and I know it takes more to charge depending on if you're using it with or without Minalka. Hey, yo, you share charges with other sidekicks, so other sidekick can help charge it up for you. Switch in Tetra, reincarnate everyone, and everyone comes back full everything and has hold ground on top. And obviously when using Minalka, she gets some other stuff which we can talk about later. But I've used this in a few fights which you've seen. In fights where I underestimated or miscalculated the super boss's move, one unit survived, everyone's dead. I reincarnated everyone, and one fight shortly thereafter. So very, very useful as a last-ditch attempt to win. Look at the auras. When HP is 80% or below, which is very easy with units such as Epry doing Risk Taker, Minalka taking damage for the whole team, like eating damage of 20% to the whole team, you get max HP and MP 25, physical and magic res 30. So I did not realize it's actually magic res 30. This is separate from type res, everyone. So you can stack type res with magic res for 100+% shielding from magic elemental attacks. So broken as F. Okay, so back to Minalka. Not to mention, she's not bad herself, right? She has Damnatio, does tons of damage. She has Rip and Tear, which is essentially applies Elemental Break Fire, inflicts pain. This one can pierce barrier. I mean, yeah, there's really not much to spend time on her. So just to reiterate, she comes with Tetra, which is broken. She barrier pierces, which was on a few units in the game, and she has extremely high damage mods, which will help you in Fire Slash teams. Not to mention, Fire Slash is free for the most part. You have lots of free units, including Kid and other Fire units. Having Minalka augment that would be even better, especially when you need those few situations that you need barrier pierce for. Oops. Okay, well, let's go to Tetra. By the way, Tetra comes with Kumos, which is yet another broken psychic. Not as outwardly broken as Tetra. However, in the right use, Kumos is undeniable. Speed down 15%, shade resist down 15%, stackable in 5 turns, in 3 turns, in 5 turns up to 45%, inflicts break, restores all MP 10 and Yakumo's MP 20. Now, sounds not as great as Tetra, right? The speed down is very useful, especially as more and more fights and bosses have high speed level or preemptive, so your preemptive can get out preemptive by the enemy. Especially in units that you need preemptive shielding, such as AS Sora, Ultimate Defense times 3 AS Radius, and so on and so forth. Speed down may help you save the game instead of you trying to mod your unit to over 300 speed. The charge skill makes Yakumo unbeatable as well. First of all, it does do attack, which doesn't mean anything. It does give you power and int minus 50, which is very useful if your team doesn't have power and int dual debuff. Now, to keep in mind, you only get it in Magic or Shade Zone, I think 2 charges a turn, so every 3 turns you can apply it, so it's not a reliable way of dual debuff. But still broken nonetheless, and when Yakumo is in the front line, it gives Yakumo everything and 0 MP consumption. The aura is cheap, activates some magic damage, and keep in mind, if you use Tetra up front and Kumos in the back, Tetra's magic attack at the end of turn, which will activate this aura, which is magic res down 20, damage minus 30. That means the enemy automatically does less 30 damage and resists magic less by 20%, which is stackable with things like, type res down, dual debuffs and things like that. Cheap, and when you use them together, well, that's the standard, right? That is the standard we are comparing everyone to. Yakumo, there's nothing else to say. All you have to do is cast Retribution, so that everyone has up to 100% type res down. And remember, if you use this with Epry, which I told you to get Epry as number 1, your Lunatic Risk Taker is automatically active, which will help him do more damage, and do, in Lunatic, up to 100% type res down for Shade, and increase his Shade type attack by 100%. So max up, max down, and after that you cast Karma, which gives him mental focus because Epry doesn't do that, and gives himself int and speed 50, which is cheap as heck. And then finally you delete everyone, which is hilarious. that does tons and tons of damage, attacks up to 5 times. Yeah, you've seen me use him in action. I think he can solo the twins, among other things. Yeah, remember, check out some of the 5-star reviews I've had on some of these units. I haven't done as many 5-star reviews recently just because most of them are ASs and ESs, and I haven't side graded all of them. And to be fair, Gamer Badad's been a lot more busy with life, and so even the newest unit, El Seal, I didn't review. She's still in the game, and I'll talk about her a little bit less in in the Star Dream, but she's still a very capable unit, just didn't have time to review her. Okay, so 2-3 is Yakumo and Minala in no particular order, although I think I would give the edge to Minala if you have neither. 4-5 is going to also be the same as previous. And remember what I said by 4-5 versus 2-3. It depends on your playstyle. If you want the versatility of having sidekicks, I highly recommend going 2-3 as Minala and Yakumo. However, for some people's playstyle, they require the ultimate defense times 3, which is AS Radius, followed by the ultimate buffer times infinite, which is Yipha AS. And these are both AS units. Me personally, I don't use AS Radius or AS Yipha that often, and even if I did, you're hard pressed to consider, as much as they're powerful units in their own right. There are now mechanics that your tanking may not occur, and I've seen stuff like that, which is ridiculous. And not only mention that, there are ways to incapacitate tanks. So AS Radius is still great, but I think she's really exclusively mostly for super boss fights. Same with Yipha AS. You need the extreme buffing for super boss fights and low turn clears. Now remember that some of the considerations are to pick based on versatility and ability to use units throughout the game in all areas. I think if you're just wandering around, taking down mobs or just exploring and taking down horrors, and just your quality of life will be improved so much by just having the Tetra up front that you essentially, it's almost like dumbed down version of Another Eden, where you just don't take much damage, right? Or get healed or whatever. It's just too good. It's just too good. But that being said, you can't go wrong with choosing AS Radius and AS Yipha. And so, unlike the previous video where I said you can choose either the two Yakumo and Minala versus AS Radius and AS Yipha, I think I'm going to give the edge now strictly 2-3 as Minala and Yakumo, and 4-5 being Radius and Yipha. Again, just my personal views. You may choose differently based on the criteria you want. But either way, you can't go wrong with any of these first 5 units. And yeah, so just as a review, she is our ultimate defense times 3 because she has something called Chivalry, which allows you to do 3 single turns at any point in the game, and she's going to take everything for you. She has continuous hold ground. She will never die for those 3 single turns. It allows you to do it at any point, so you don't have to do them first 3 turns in a row. You can do it in turn 4 when you know the super boss is doing some rotation or anything like that. She also has the ability to absorb blood, which is a pain setting, which is still nice. She can heal herself. And the other things mainly is the fact that she can go up to 60% power res down, which is power down, which is crazy good. Crazy good. Against physical attackers, essentially makes them incapacitated. Not to mention, barrier shielding is still very, very used, and she gets her own shield on top, which is useful when she's taking damage for your team using her cover ability. And finally, Prominence Purge as her main attack does inflict rage, which is, by the way, ignores target resistance. If she's on the front line, she also does that, but you have another way of doing it. She gets physical res herself, status immunity, and she can counter heal for both MP and HP and status immunity, which will help a lot of fights. So there is a reason we use AS Radius in a lot of fights. Her and AS Yipha are considered part of the one team back in the day. So, you never leave home without them. They essentially win the game for you. Finally, AS Yipha, main thing is she has a little bit of stuff in terms of dual debuff. Pretty weak. I think it's 30-30 in end zone. However, the main thing is her ability to cast Faith on a unit, basically allowing them to double in stats. And then you can just, the units with the Blessing or the Faith, I think she calls blessings for you or whatever she says. Increase all these buffs to, look at that, crit damage up to to 100% on the blessed unit, 50% for everyone else, power speed int up to 100%, type attack up to 100%, you know, like the cheap stuff out there. That's on top of the double stats, remember, from the blessing itself. And then she has the other thing, which is the shielding, which is a 35-35 to front and back line, cyclone wind, which is kickback immunity times 1, and for the unit that you're giving the blessing to, 70% instead, and max HP shield 3 turns. So essentially helps that one person last forever, and if not, you can still win the game for other reasons, or just put it on your main DPS, allowing you to just crush the enemy as it stands. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is covered, and unfortunately not much change from the rest. Okay, so what goes on after that? I would say that this is very similar to the last time, where after these 5 picks, the picks in terms of Stardream Encounters recommendation gets a little bit less obvious. Because as from that time of the last video to now, the current meta is now promoting mono element teams. And the units that you summon benefit and excel in those situations. So as a quick example, my number 6 choice is interesting. I don't know if you agree or disagree. And it is a newcomer to our list. Well, after all, she is new too. Haha. We are going to select from the sword department. We are no, actually no. Haha. I forgot. From the axe department. Whoops. We are going to choose Ultra Lulu, everyone. Ultra Lulu. We can pull for the buddy as well. Ultra Lulu has someone called Limo. And Limo allows Ultra Lulu to be the premier slash zone setter. The absolute number 1 slash zone setter in the right situation. And even if not in the right situation, close to the number 1. The sidekick itself does slash every turn. Increases slash damage on all slash allies by 15%, stackable up to 45. Now, I believe this is actually separate boosts and buffs from your own weapon damage. I don't know if this counts towards the cap of 100%, but I know that this is an extremely powerful buff. And note that in slash zone, the strength is times 2. For the attack, by the way, not the buff. And when you can see in slash unit teams, your charge stack is twice as fast, so you can get 2 charges per turn, which will allow us to do the 5 turn 3 full charge. Now, not as defensive as Tetra and Kumos. However, the offensive capabilities of allowing Ultra Lulu to get power and int 100% till turn end is quite good. Now, keep in mind that if she already gave herself 100% from other sources, other units or support, then this is not as good. However, in some teams, this is still a very useful ability. And don't forget that, oh, I don't want to use Limo. Oh yeah, by the way, it enhances awakened zone for slash if you need to. Oh no, I don't want to use it. I guess I'll use Tetra instead with Ultra Lulu, right? Does it really matter? Okay, so other than that, Ultra Lulu, you've seen me do her 5-star review. I think she's fun to use. That's another thing I would like to say when I try to recommend units. I like to recommend the units that are fun and can do a lot, and not that they're not complicated or anything, but I want to find, like, you want units that can do a lot and be cool and have fun with and still win the game, as opposed to, wow, I'm reading a wall of text. I don't understand what everything's going on. I don't understand the interactions, and it's too complicated for me to do AF pianos and so on and so forth. Easy peasy. Preemptive slash attack on all enemies. Note that this is a 0 MP farmer, like I said. And if you have 3 or more slash zone up front, it awakens slash zone right away. So you get a first turn awaken for free, or a first turn AF that has awakened slash zone for free. Pretty broken in its own right. Note that it only requires 3 frontline slash units, so you actually have some flexibility in having a 4th that does something else. That's really nice as opposed to strictly 4 or nothing. She has boosts with Purgatorium that allows you to do up to 75% slash down in an awakened zone. Crit damage up 75%, which is very, very useful. Remember that crit damage cannot be capped, so you can stack multiple stacks of crit damage up, especially for the physical teams. Magic is still coming, but for physical teams, really, really, really good. It allows your team to do hundreds of millions or capped damage. If you're wondering how some of the highest low turn clears do billions of damage. The crit damage up and the type res down are really what you're looking at. Obviously, things like boosting, power, int, and speed are great, but there's a limit to that. It's a lot of those debuffs, and most importantly, some of the crit damage up that does allow you to do tons of damage. She still does have a Moz debuff, which is a power int down 25%. Not great, but it is there. Remember, again, the unit has the capability of doing multiple rolls as well. And she has an end of turn attack. Don't forget, in her abilities, she has an end of turn attack based on a number of stacked harvests, and the harvest means a number of slash turn moves done that turn. Even at 4 attacks only, which is, your normal forward people, and keep in mind that Limo can also attack for a slash if you count that, then it still does a fair bit of tens of millions of damage, and with the right buffs and debuffs can do probably 100 million or more. So useful to have the essentially 2 attacks a turn and all the other things that she can do. Now keep in mind, again, if you have the normal style of a Lulu, don't use your Star Dream on Ultra Lulu, but as someone who has a sidekick, she herself is great already, and her sidekick is decent, and she can be used in a variety of situations. And anyways, number 7, we'll go with the slash theme. However, a different type of slash unit, a different type of scam unit, and a different type of broken unit. And we know who that is, right, everyone? Cesta did good. And you know why Cesta did good? She awakens zone at the front line at the battle start and deploys enhanced or awakened zone right off the bat if you have a full team, win team, which is why not. And under awakened win zone, she gets a divine wolf stack on every turn start, which is essentially for the first turn and the 2 turns after that, because zones last 2 additional turns after the turn they're awakened in an enhanced awakened zone. So for 3 turns, essentially, she'll have three ways to do divine wolf. Normal attack changes when divine wolf is stacked. Now, again, watch my video to see how you use her. But basically, instead of pressing the katana swing, which is on the far left, it will activate something called Twin Blade Wolf. Twin Blade Wolf casts every move she owns in a row, and the most powerful version of it. So in order, it will cast Howling Soul at a 5-star. Power and speed for everybody under enhanced win zone. That is a broken full stack of capped abilities and status immunity 3 times, which is great against fights like Dr. Featon or other super cheap bosses or super bosses where they cast multiple immunity statuses on you. That also affects things like status from environments and things like that. So that's cheap. It will cast Fajin Slash after that, which is ignore target defenses. That doesn't mean pierce barrier, but it ignores target defense and reduce their defense stat to 0. So this is a non-type attack, but it can still do a lot of damage. And remember that if you do use Cesta with a unit that can change everyone to 1 element, this becomes that element. However, she will normally not be used with units such as Kaleido AS Nakoko, because AS Nakoko is not a win unit and it won't be conducive to first turn super attacks. Anyways, slash attack times 8, ignore target defense, inflict elemental break wind. Unfortunately, that does get consumed right after that with Crusher Blow, which does wind slash AoE times 5 in Twin Blade Wolf, and wind res down 100. So again, I guess we got rid of the elemental break wind and we just put wind type res permanently on all the enemies. This is AoE, by the way, for 100% down. So capped wind res down. And then casts Sky Mirror, I believe, which increases her own physical mental focus and increases damage by critical herself 100% to herself only, which who cares? And then finally, she ends off with Starving Wolf that under Twin Blade Wolf does increase strength times 35 and guarantee crit and pierce barrier. So you have all 5 moves in one move. You can only do it once a turn, but once a turn is more than enough. She caps damage almost all the time against enemies vulnerable or weak to slash or wind. Yeah, she's limited. She's one-dimensional, you say. But remember, you say one-dimensional. I know she doesn't have triple debuffs and stuff, but she can set a zone, which we said as one ability. She has a special scam ability that can do 5 moves at once. She can pierce barrier, And she's the #1 DPS for wind currently in the game. So, yeah. Too bad she doesn't have a sidekick. She is the sidekick. I mean, she turns into a wolf and all, but she is, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I'm actually stunned when I talk about her because I still think she's so cheap. So awesome. I love, and wind has always been one of my favorite elements, actually. So, yes, that is why she is still top tier for me. Alright, so after that, unfortunately, the variety of units I now recommend after these first 7, the variety is going to drop a lot since WFS has now introduced such power creep and speed of updates. Most units I will recommend after these first 7 are going to be units from the last 6 months, and most of them will still be in current batters. So, point to consider is whether or not you want to strengthen your roster. Now, you have to look at your roster in a critical way, and I don't know if you're, some of the newer players may not know, oh, what am I missing, or what do I need? I hope at this point, most of you, or many of you, have played it for some time, and you kind of see, what kind of style do I want to play? What kind of elements do I need? Or can I form a team with each element? So, as a reminder, we recommend that you have to have a team of at least 4 of every element and weapon type. So, for example, a fire team, a water team, a wind team, an earth team, and then you can have a slash team, a magic team, a blunt team, and a pierce team. And then after those 2, you're now going to have specialized teams. So fire slash, or water slash, or shade magic, or water magic. Like that's kind of what we're looking for in the evolution of your roster. So you have to get a team started first, and then after that, you can specialize those teams. So when you are summoning at this point after those first 7, you have to decide how you want to strengthen your roster. Where's the biggest holes? Do you need a barrier pierce? Do you need a generalist? Do you need a zone setter because you don't have that right zone setting unit? Or you haven't done the boss rush so you can't get the zone setting move Grasta? At this point, remember that also you do have to have a decent Grasta supply and inventory, and a lot of those are from some of the optional content, so keep that in mind to really bring out the maximum for your roster. I would recommend at this point to consider summoning for specialist units rather than generalists, because specialist units are harder to replace. Even if they get power crept a little bit or a lot, they still have niche roles later on in life, as opposed to a generalist where all their abilities are kind of power crept. And an example of that would be a pure DPS. For example, say you relied on a wind slash DPS before Cesta. As soon as Cesta comes, you're done. That unit is considered less desirable. But what if your old wind slash unit did something that Cesta could not do? Then you can still use her or him as a secondary on the wind slash team, right? So these are things to consider. Now back to generalist. Previously, RCF, which is an AS Nokoko and Nokoko normal style, were recommended as an honorable mention because they can fit in all elemental teams. They can convert, in the case of AS Nokoko, anyone to any element, and I'll just bring her up because some people don't know what AS Nokoko looks like, and RCF as well. So I'll just bring up, that's Nokoko, that is RCF, and Nokoko does have the AS, which I'm talking about. Okay. Now, these two are not bad. However, Nokoko obviously is free. We have that free as part of our 8 so-called 5-star free units. Do not use your SDE on her. RCF is good. Not sure if you really need to put him at the top of the line for your Star Dream encounter. Okay, after this, we're talking about using specialty units and kind of going with the power creep. I don't really like doing this, but I do this because of the fact that I guess currently this is kind of the way the team has been developed. Okay, so the game has kind of pushed us to units that are more specialized and yet still have a viable role. So the units we're talking about here are going to be, They're going to be the water type units that have been released lately. And that's going to be El Seal, Ultra Diderith, and ES Felmina. And so I don't have some of those because I haven't side graded them. But But there you have it. And the reason why I recommend those, and remember that Ultra Daenerys may not be on this Star Dream, is because Elciel still has a lot of abilities that are good for her. I haven't actually done her last move, but the fact that she can do slash res down up to 35, it's actually 35% on the final move. I don't have it because I haven't finished her personal quest. Guaranteed crit setting, restores and gives type attack up to 50%. She has a lot of other support, power into speed, weapon damage up. She has water damage up. She can do increased weak points. She can also do things that convert anyone currently to water weak, which may be beneficial to some fights that have resistances or absorb. The other thing too is she has an ability called Link, which basically allows us to grant Link to all water party members. And those are units with water element on them. So that just means that they become all slash units, and they will now do additional hits when they do any attack. So you're going to use Elciel to help penetrate through and charge your bar and do a lot of extra hits to wear down barriers. And she converts everyone to slash, so she's going to benefit water slash teams quite a bit. Even if you put other units on her, like other units, they can all become water slash and do the things for you. So you can choose the highest modifier units you have and put them all there, and they all kind of become water slash units. But you don't even have to do that because ES Felmina is one of the premier top DPS water slash in the game. Sorry, I can't show her moves. She has the ability to do multiple moves in a row, just very similar to Cesta. Not quite as good, but still ability to do high levels of DPS. Apply some Ice Burst, and that converts her into a specialized mode that basically she won't be targeted by single target skills. And like I said, she'll just stay alive, doing things like increasing guaranteed crit rate of all party members if you need it, type attack of all party members. She can protect herself with Barrier Pierce. She gets Barrier Pierce, and she can do she can apply Water Res down. Very, very powerful. Very, very, very powerful. And it can attack twice. So, there's that. And finally, Ultra Daenerys, again, our newest water tank that can counter heal, and his counter is kind of like Critical Guard, which is similar to AS Sora. But on a water team, it will be really nice as a water zone setter. If you don't like Elciel and her style, you can use Ultra Daenerys instead as your main water zone setter. When the user in the front line and their 4 water characters, it automatically deploys Awakened Water Zone. So that is really, really, really good. Now, the downside to that is that Elciel can actually do a preemptive move that can set Water Zone and Awakened Zone. So Ultra Daenerys does it one better, and that's what I mean by power creep. Elciel came out, and within 3 months, or 2 months even, Daenerys Ultra came out and can do that move but better. So yeah, it's a little bit discouraging, to be honest. So those are specialty units if you want to kind of build your water team. I think water slash, if you're using water elements, are probably the best way to go. If you're talking wind, there's only one unit I probably would recommend other than Cesta. And keep in mind that I assume that you have all the units that I mentioned in the top 7 before even considering some of these units. AS Melody would be my next choice. Right here. I don't have AS Melody, but she is a unit that can be basically set in Awakened Zone, help augment Cesta by keeping Zone awakened, breaks Zone at the end of 3 turns, and reawakens and sets Wind Zone again. Not to mention high levels of DPS, other boosts, and stuff like that. That's what I mean by earlier in the game earlier in the video when I said a unit can do everything. She literally can do everything. So I mean, yeah. Oh, she gives herself magic crit damage up. One of the few. And does, by the way, she can do power, int, and speed down up to 50%, set permanent, ignore target resistance zone, pain, and so on and so forth. So, yep. With her and Cesta, you probably already won the game if you're weak to wind. If you're water, I would say ES Felmina as your top slash, and then one of Elciel or Daenerys probably win anyways. And don't forget, you'll probably have Ultra Lulu from pick 6, so you'll have 2 or 3 water units that you can win the game with that way. In terms of tanks, I already showed you AS Radius.
we should talk about AS Lovely as well. AS Lovely has a counter heal. She can set Blunt Zone from what I remember as well. She's not bad. I just don't know if I would recommend her over AS Radius. AS Radius performs something different. AS Lovely does have the counter heal. Her shielding, when it counters, does type res down. So that will help you win fights in a certain way. However, the downside is her cover only lasts for 2 turns, and it's auto. What I mean by that was once you cast it, it's for 2 turns in a row. You can't choose and pick which 2 separate turns you can do. Okay. So again, the counter does restore AS gauge, but every hit is counter. So you can have scenarios where the boss keeps on countering or the mobs keep on hitting you. You probably get an AF charge almost every turn, depending on how many hits you take. And remember, she covers for your whole team, so tanks everything and gets constant hold ground and applies mega poison and things like that. So some unique strats you can use with her. Not to mention, she can set Blunt Zone with a move. She has okay DPS, not the top, but she has obviously other things, and you can't expect them to be number 1 in every ability out there. And she's not absolutely necessary if you have AS Radius as a tank. Finally, as a tank, AS Sora is great, but you should not use her Star Dream on her because you can side grade her, so I won't show the picture. If you need an Earth team, I suppose you can go with Alter Shannon. I think Earth is right now not necessary. Hasn't been necessary for a while now, and I don't want you to waste a pick on a unit that is just sitting in your roster. Some of my moves are actually still locked because, as you can see, some of the moves are specifically to unlocking all her quests, which I haven't done. But the best one here is her main DPS, which applies Elemental Break Earth, 3 stacks. When guaranteed crit, by the way, in Awakened Zone, increased damage when crit, and so on and so forth. Not to mention her other moves out there, which can help set Earth Zone with a move and gives you physical res 30%. And she has other things that can boost your user's power and speed 30%. Sword weapon damage for your whole team up 30%. And remember that it is increased by 3 times for the boost when in Awakened Zone. So, I mean, she can awaken her own zone from what I understand, but she can apply, Earth Zone, and you can either go Earth / or just pure Earth, and then just round out your team that way. Don't forget you have Lokito's True Manifest. There's other ways to get powerful Earth teams, but I think if you want a Earth setter, you can use Ultra Shannon. Maybe as I say, these are secondary considerations at this point, right? How about fire? Fire slash is a thing, everyone, right? Fire slash is a thing. We have Aldo, we have Kid, we have so much fire out there. We have True Manifest Scaryu. You really don't. You have Aisha. You really don't need to summon specifically for fire. And if you do, you already got Minoka, which will probably help you win the fight on its own. I suppose if you really need a good fire zone setter and you don't really like the ones you have so far, Alter Sukiya would be one, but you can get Sukiya as a freebie from the 4 guaranteed 5 stars earlier on, and so don't bother using a pick on fire. You'll have it for sure. Let me just find that. To be fair, I actually have side graded Alter what do you call it? No, not Alter Lulu. I side graded Alter Sukiya, and I don't think I've used her yet. Not to say I can't. She's actually really powerful, and a lot of videos do use her for fights. I just haven't personally used them. And where the heck did she go? Is she not Slash? Is she not Slash? Let me look. It's been a while since I've kind of gone through my whole list, and sorry, it as you own a lot of units, you can't really remember everything out there. I thought she was. Hold on. Oh, she's Lance. Wow. Shows how much I know. There. Her moves are great. She has a zone setting move, by the way.
fire setting. Note that she does have Surging Blaze, which in fire can be up to 75 crit damage up. Her DPS, she does have Brilliant Dawn, which can do some damage. However, her other move is more of a support attack, but it does give fire res up to 100 down and fire type attack 100 up. So if you're not getting enough out of Zed Steel or anything like that from Kid, you can use an Alter Sukiya, but again, you can side grade that. So do not waste any Star Dream picks on that at all. You can also use, if you want a flexible slash user that is one that can modify to other weapon types, you can also choose Alter Hismina. She can flexible, so instead of being a slash unit, she can be a pierce weapon or whatever, and that depends on how many units, most numerous weapon type in the front line she's not counting. So for example, if you have two staff users up front, she becomes a staff user. If you become two pierce units, she can become a pierce unit. And she does a lot of things on her own, which are quite powerful. You've probably seen me use her already. I didn't do a 5-star review on her, but just as a quick review, she can attack twice with Refstos. And in Awakened Zone, she can do things like water slash all enemies but physical and water type down up to 75%. She has other abilities. She actually has a debuff of 30-30. She can do a lot of different things, and she can Awaken Zone here and apply weapon break slash up to 6 hits in Awakened Zone. So very good unit on its own, just not one of the top 7 out there. And if you get her, you can also augment your water slash team. And finally, in slash, if you want another slash zone setter, which is very highly vaulted, I haven't used him personally, but it is out there. Do I even have him? Maybe not. Probably not. It's Claude the King. I don't have his ES, but Claude ES is the one for flexible slash Omni Zone. He's the only one who can actually change to any weapon type depending on the person to his right, I think, or the person he puts some sort of charge on. So again, he has a lot of great support. He is actually an Earth slash unit too, so it can be used with Ultra Shannon in the right team. Gives crit damage up 100%, I believe, as well as some other things like that. He is not a DPS, mostly a support. Again, as a blunt zone setter, Lovely AS is okay, but not currently useful as much. And magic teams, what do you need for your magic team? Have you not seen the top 2 picks I have out there? I mean, Yakumo and Epry probably help you win the game already. If you really want to augment the magic team, I mean, you can look at my staff users. There are quite a few to choose from. I mean, AS Chio is still great, however, she can be side graded, so do not pull for her. Eva is actually, and Flam are actually considered lesser because Water Slash is probably better than Water Magic in terms of pure DPS, at least to my understanding and experimentation. So unless something changes, those would not be top picks at this moment, which is unfortunate. I mean, you have so many other magic users you can use. Perfection is probably one I would say that would be marginal use if you really want to use a unit, Ultra Xion, that can switch with Paper Tiger to any weakness. So you swap the insight, which is basically swap weaknesses and resistances for the whole fight. Okay, and finally, our Pierce requirements if you need it. I would say that, I mean, AS Yukino is still the premier unit. However, remember that she is free as a normal style, so do not pay to get that. Okay, she has great abilities. I won't have to go over them now, but the thing is, you got Yukino for free, which I pulled actually, and I selected her. Do not use her SDE. If you really want to use it on Hozuki Alter, you can, but it's not a top tier pick. Sorry, losers become winners. So, or AKA no waifu, no lifu. I'm not picking your waifu, not because I don't like her, but because she's just not top tier. So that's that. All right. So, anyways, hopefully that gives you some consideration as to who to pull. I do apologize again for the very long-winded video. It always takes a long time to discuss and talk about, and kind of cover all the different points because there are a lot of considerations, but hopefully that gives you some insight as to my considerations and selection criteria. Hopefully you agree with some, and if you don't and you disagree, it's okay to disagree, right? Anyways, get ready for the update in 2 days. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.